I eat little baby's ice cream. It keeps me young. It keeps me light on my feet.
Is that a case of just because, not just the original Beetlejuice?
Just roll.
Well, just because like people have seen those original movies, you know, Ghostbusters, Alien, Beetlejuice. They've seen them a million times, know them by heart. So when you see a movie like this, which I thought was okay, but yeah, am I going to remember in a week? I don't know.
The reason why the three examples you gave are iconic and memorable is because they were original.
Well, yes.
Still I venture someplace scary. Ghostly haunting, I turn loose. Beetlejuice.
Beetlejuice?
Beetlejuice!
It's showtime! All my friends are dead and they don't like me anymore. They've moved along, they've changed, and now they find me quite a bore. Way back then it was okay to be a little weird, but all my friends are dead.
Hello, I'm internet personality Milk Content, and this is my first review. And my first review is on Beetlejuice.
What the Thank you all for coming to this special occasion.
Beetlejuice is not perfect, but I can't get it out of my head, and I love it, and I think it's one of my favorite movies of 2024. The discourse around a movie that comes out way after the other is always going to be tricky. There's always a problem with legacy sequels that come out way after the original movies. I think very few movies hit the same chord as something like Fury Road, but I don't think everything needs to be Fury Road. Some sequels can just be more of what you liked from the original, and I think that's what Beetlejuice fundamentally is. Sequels are always a problem. There's no good way to get around a sequel. Every sequel that you can think of, with very few exceptions, is worse than the original. And of course, The Lord of the Rings is a perfect trilogy, but the only way you get a perfect trilogy is if you write a huge story and cut it up into 3 parts. So sequels are almost always bad. What makes Beetlejuice better? To expect Beetlejuice to somehow, pull its pants up and come up with a really good story is a little bit ridiculous, since Beetlejuice barely has a story either. Beetlejuice and Beetlejuice are a series of set pieces and gags about the afterlife. Both of those work for what they are. Beetlejuice has its own very specific understanding of what the afterlife is like, and the afterlife is a waiting room. Style over story is a pretty good way to put both movies, because if you lay out what happens in either, it's not terribly interesting. And I can't stress this enough. Tim Burton actually seems to care about Beetlejuice. This might be the most revelatory part of my review. This might be the thing that actually... And look, I only ascribe to auteur theory to some extent, but you have to admit, the last several Tim Burton helmed movies have been awful. If you look at his last several movies, Disney helmed, one's a reboot, a live-action reboot of Dumbo, Alice in Wonderland, Willy Wonka. These movies aren't very good. They're very heavy CGI. They're very off-putting, and they feel really factory-made. They don't feel handmade. They don't feel crafted. Beetlejuice feels crafted. Everyone was there for everyone knew the assignment, and everyone was, there to have fun. And I think a movie like this requires everybody to be having fun. It seems to me the two people who care the most are Keaton and O'Hara. Catherine O'Hara, Michael Keaton turn in two of the best performances I've seen in 2024. I think the only weak member of the cast is Ortega. The boy that turns out to be a ghost, he was actually a more interesting performer than Ortega. Ortega, I feel like, maybe is coasting on the fact that she looks like a goth girl in general. I've yet to see her in anything where I'm like, this is the best actress I've seen in a while, but, time will tell on that. I don't want to be too hard on her. I don't think she's bad. When you compare her to everybody else, she's bad. Willem Dafoe is perfect. He's like a goofy, hilarious cop. But I feel like that part was written for David Lynch.
And when you became Denise, I told all your colleagues, those clown comics, to fix their hearts or die.
Right down to the fact that he's got an attractive blonde secretary that just brings him coffee. If he wasn't supposed to be David Lynch originally, he definitely was written to be a David Lynch style detective. Wouldn't it be great to see David Lynch, being a ghost and, yelling at Beetlejuice and stuff? That's right, Beetlejuice. If you don't watch yourself, you're going to end up in the Hooskow. I'm David Lynch. How are you? Marvelous. The last thing I want to talk about, and I think this is why Beetlejuice is rolling around in my head as much as it was, is that Tim Burton, and I mentioned this before, hasn't really cared in a while, and I think the last time Tim Burton cared was Big Fish. I want to say Big Fish is Tim Burton dealing with his dad issues and his dad dying. I don't know if it's a direct corollary or not, because Ed Wood might be that too. I don't really know Tim Burton that personally. What I will say is that of the Tim Burton dad stuff, I think Beetlejuice manages it the best. The first problem they have is one of the actors portraying one of the characters was a convicted
pervert.
And admittedly, his image is all over this movie, but only in stills or a weird animation, and his character is walking around with no head. Now, I bring all that up because it's sort of an elephant in the room that one of the main characters from Beetlejuice ended up being like this disgusting freak. And how do you write around that when you can't just kill the character, because where are they going to go? Detroit? So I like that the central push to get everyone back together is this weird freak accident where the dad is murdered by a shark in a horrible way. I love when he's in the afterlife, bumbling around, trying to get his paperwork figured out. The O'Hara's line, "Look what happened to me," when she meets up with him in the afterlife, is the funniest fucking line. Yeah, I like it. It justifies all of this weird stuff they had to do to get around the fact that one of their actors is horrifyingly, unacceptable. It also allows for two interpretations of a fantasy about meeting your dad in the afterlife. Beetlejuice has not one, but two dead dads. Basically, what I like about Beetlejuice compared to something heavier, like an Ari Aster movie that's dealing with mourning in a really serious way, I think that there's some value in mourning people in kind of a silly way. It's a nice idea that your dad, after he passes, right, isn't rotting in the ground or whatever thing he is. He's bumbling around, an afterlife waiting room, trying to figure out where to go, has no idea where to go. People can relate to this idea. This is really good. And I don't know how much Tim Burton has to do with the relatability, but I think the biggest thing about Beetlejuice compared to any recent Tim Burton movie or show or whatever is that this is relatable. There's this understanding about Tim Burton where he's like this weirdo outsider. But the fact is, the guy taps into very universal ideas. Edward Scissorhand, very universal idea of being an outsider and wanting to fit in. And Big Fish is incredibly relatable to, you know, finding out your dad is mortal and not like not caring that he's mortal. Like finding out that his legendary stories aren't as legendary. Like learning that your father is a person, like you are a person. And then not caring about that and making them a legend again. These are relatable ideas that Tim Burton has all but given up on while working for Disney. And that, my friends, is another reason why Disney is the worst fucking company on the fucking planet.
Oh my god! Ow, my face!
On that guy's what? But
Oh, one more thing. I never really listened to MacArthur's Park ever in my life. I'm very familiar with it as Jurassic Park. I love that song. That song's so good, and I love that they just use the whole thing for the whole fucking end of the movie. Okay, there we go. That's my review. Bye-bye! MacArthur's Park is melting in the dark. All the sweet green icing flowing down. Someone left the cake out in the rain. I don't think that I can take it, 'cause it took so long to bake it, and I'll never have that recipe again. Oh no!